Hey, okay, so what's up? Um, Story time. And this story is a little overdue, but it's better late than never. Today I'm sharing my journey of mental health and mental illness and living with that. Um, so I guess it all started in middle school is probably the earliest I can remember of it. And basically, in middle school, I was pretty much a normal kid. I just sort of had issues with fitting in, like most kids do, most kids feel, and most people can relate to that. But as I got older, I had this immense anxiety start to grow, and it sort of just developed more and more over the years, and it really hit hard the winter of 2017. And that was I believe that was the winter of my junior year in high school. And I was struggling with anxiety, depression, and just some other stuff. And I can remember in those times, I just felt isolated and alone, and everything around me was just gray. And I never really enjoyed the things I was supposed to enjoy or had fun with the things I was supposed to have fun with. And from an outside perspective, no one, not even my closest friends and family, knew. And I was a straight A student, and I was an athlete. I was in academic clubs, art clubs, and I worked every day after school and had friends and had a social life and everything. I mean, I smiled. I went through my days looking happy like any other kid. But inside, I never really knew how to describe how I felt. But I always felt broken and like there was something wrong with me, but I never really knew what it was. And so my high school years were kind of rough, and I was just sort of floating by, and I thought it would never get better, but it did. But in that time, I began to have thoughts, and it was never really like intentions or plans to do anything to myself or anyone else, but it was more like I'd be driving down the road at night by myself and just have the image of me pulling the steering wheel into a telephone pole or oncoming traffic would go through my head, and how easy that would be. And when that started happening is when I really started to realize I'm broken, I need help. And so that's when I finally said something to my mom, and I explained sort of briefly what was going on. I didn't really want to go into all of it, so I just said, I need help. I need to go talk to someone. Can you help me find somewhere to go? And so she did. And I started to go to a therapist and for counseling. And at the therapist, I talked to her only a handful of times. I didn't go as long as I definitely should have. But just talking to someone who has an outside perspective, and like even a complete stranger, was one of the best things I ever did. And I had realized that I did not want to die. I just didn't want to continue living the life I was living. And it was a long journey, but I started to improve over the last couple years. And the biggest thing that helped me overcome my anxiety, depression, and everything else that was going on was just being vulnerable and communicating that with people and realizing I'm not alone. The thing about mental illness is that it is the biggest, most open club. So depression and anxiety and mental illness is basically the world's most I don't know how I want to say this. It's the world's most inclusive organization. But the thing about it is it makes every single member feel alone. And so I just wanted to express how incredibly important communication is, and to realize you're not alone in it, and there are other people dealing with it. 1 in 10 people, 1 in 10 adults deal with some form of mental illness. So I just wanted to share my story and explain how communication and expressing it and talking about what's going on actually helps so much. But even though I'm better than I was, and I'm started in college, and I have a job, and I have friends and everything, mental illness isn't something that just you heal and goes away. It is a constant journey and something you deal with every single day. It's you're constantly always growing and changing, and you have to work on it every day. Otherwise, you can slip back into who you used to be and where you were. So even though you never really get past your mental illness, you can become bigger than it and not be defined by it. And I think it's important to really express that and provide visibility to it to let people know they're not alone, and that everybody deals with this, and it's not an uncommon thing. So yeah, it's a process, and every day you just got to keep going at it and growing as a person and learning to love yourself and everyone around you. Yeah. Bye.